What was the scariest, creepiest thing that has ever happened to you? I was like 12 in a bathroom stall in Walmart, using the bathroom, and I got this super weird feeling that someone was watching me. I slowly moved my eyes upward and toward the adjacent stall, and there was some old fucker standing on the toilet watching me shit. I was terrified of public bathrooms for years, and they still make me uncomfortable. Alright, this didn't end creepy, but in the moment, well, you'll see. I picked up a hitchhiker who was dressed like he worked road construction on my way to work early one morning. As we're driving through a small town, there is a house all sectioned off with police tape and cops' cars out front. The guy turns to me and says, "There was a double murder there this morning." And for that brief moment, I almost had a heart attack. Just something about having a stranger say that in my car was so horrifying, as if I expected him to admit to it and kill me right then and there. After that moment faded, I laughed and told him how creepy that sounded, and we both laughed about it. And he didn't kill me, so it ended well. I was riding my bike home late one night, and coming my way is a big guy with sunglasses on. He gets me to stop and says, "Do you mind if I ask you some questions?" The fact that he said questions weirded me out, so I said, "No, sorry, I have to go," and I started riding away. At the next block, there was a red light, so I stopped. I look back, and the guy is running towards me. He is about 20 feet away, and I freak out and just go. He got as close as about 5 feet from me before I pulled away. I'm sprinting on my bike, and like 3 or 4 blocks away, I'm far away, and I look back. He's still chasing me. I never pedaled so hard in my life all the way home. My best friend and her father dropped me off at my house after school because my parents were still working. As they were driving away, they saw a man who was a lawn care dude sneak behind me from the side of our house while I was unlocking the door with my back turned. They slammed it in reverse, honked like crazy, and he bolted. I was 14 and so frightened. That's when my innocent child view vanished. I don't know what would have happened if they didn't see him. When I was 10 or so, I had an incredibly vivid nightmare that I was being chased through a dark maze by a giant disembodied hand. I woke up in a cold sweat, shaking all over, but needing to use the bathroom. I mustered my courage to get up and walk to the bathroom, and when I turned on the light, the hand was there waiting for me. I screamed at the top of my lungs, and then woke up for real. Turns out I had a false awakening, where you dream that you wake up. Thinking I was awake and finding my nightmare had come true was mind-numbingly terrifying. When I was in university, I had a summer job in the town by my cottage, and spent the summer living there alone. One night, at about 11, I was watching TV when an 18-wheel truck pulled into my driveway. Keep in mind, this is a pretty isolated area. I stood inside for a couple of minutes, deciding what to do while this huge truck was idling in with its headlight shining into my front window. Instead of hiding, I grabbed a butcher knife, stepped onto the deck and yelled, "What the fuck do you want?" It turns out my neighbor forgot I was living there during the week, no car, biked to work, and told his visiting friend, a long-haul trucker, to park there overnight. The poor unsuspecting man was checking in with his wife on the phone when I emerged, in a nightie, with a crazed look in my eyes, wielding a knife. This was likely also one of his scariest experiences. This is a really creepy story from my teenage life. This happened around 3 years ago. I was living with a roomie and going to school, and I was around 22. I'm a female. It was a weekday evening, and my roommate had informed me that she was going out clubbing and staying over at another friend's house. She had invited me, but I didn't really feel like going. Instead, I made plans to sit on my ass, watch junk TV, and work on homework. Around 10 p.m., I went to the gas station to get some candy and energy drinks. I remember that day pretty well, because I had gotten out of classes pretty early and had just gotten my hair done, and I was feeling pretty confident and cute. I went to the gas station, and there was 3, probably in their 20s, guys just lurking around. They just looked like your average frat boys, and I remember that one had shaggy blonde hair and was covered in tattoos. I noticed one of them nudge the other and nod in my direction as I picked out my snacks, but I didn't pay much mind. They paid before I did and left. After I got my stuff, I walked out to the parking lot and saw them sitting in a beat-up, shitty car, and all 3 of them seemed to be staring at me. I hopped in my car and headed back to my house, which was literally only a few minutes from the gas station, and they started their car and followed. I didn't think much of it, figuring they were probably just heading the same direction as I was. However, I live pretty deep in a subdivision with a lot of turns, and after a minute of pulling in and making several turns, I noticed they seemed to be following me. I got nervous since I knew I was home alone, so I kept driving past my house. I pulled out of the neighborhood and back onto the main road, and they were still following. I just drove for a while, and they sped up and really started getting close. Then they started flashing their lights and actually pulled up next to me and rolled their window down. The part of me that has faith in humanity thought, what the fuck? Do I have a low tire or something? But when I looked over and saw them leering at me, I knew it wasn't anything like that, and I immediately began to panic a little. We were on a more deserted stretch of road now, and they were swerving, almost like they were going to bang into my car, but I just sped up. All I could think was, should I drive to the police station? It's like 15 minutes away from here, and there's a ton of stoplights on the way. What if I have to stop and they block my car or something? Fortunately, by this point, I was getting somewhat close to my sister's house. She lives pretty close to me, about 15 minutes away, but in the opposite direction of the police station. My hands were shaking, and I was trying to navigate the road with these douche nozzles speeding up and slowing down, and trying to nudge me off the road. But I picked up my phone and dialed my sister. She answered on the fourth ring. Without preamble, I immediately asked her if Josh, her husband, was home. She sounded confused, but said yeah. Josh is in the military, and I knew he owned guns. He's a good guy, but we didn't really talk much, and I never felt particularly close to him or anything. Tell him to get his gun and come out to the driveway, please. By this point, I was near tears. I dropped the phone, and one of those fucks threw something, I think a plastic Coke bottle, at my driver's side window when they sped up near me. I finally saw my sister's house, and then pulled into her driveway. The entire house was dark, no porch light, nothing. I was so fucked. I misheard her. They weren't even home, and there aren't any neighbors that would be close enough to run to. The guys pulled up behind me so I couldn't back out of the driveway, and they all jumped out. They all started walking up to my car, and one of them even reached for the handle and yanked on it. By this point, I was fumbling for my phone again. Fuck. Do I have a weapon in here? Should I grab my phone and try to run? Should I back over these bastards or just stay locked in the car? In the split second that I looked up, two things happened. First, I made eye contact with the shaggy-haired blonde guy who was the one yanking on my door. He didn't look angry or drunk or anything. His eyes were dead and predatory. While I was frozen in terror, he looked cold, like he had done this kind of thing before or something. The other guys were trying my other doors, but I couldn't break eye contact with the blonde, who was inches from my face and only separated by a glass window. Second, I finally saw a shape move behind him in the darkness, and I heard a loud bang. All the guys stopped and looked, and my hero, my brother-in-law, stepped out of the shadows, creeping up from behind the house. He pointed his gun at them and told them to get the fuck out of there. They ran back to their car and sped off, screaming profanities at Josh and me. When they left, my sister ran outside and brought me in. The driveway scene sounds in writing like it took a long time, but in reality, it was only a few minutes. Because of that, and because of how dark it was, we didn't get the guy's plate number. We called the police and they came out to get our statements. They said they would have someone patrol the area to keep an eye out for any cars that were the same make, model, color, but that it would be hard to catch the guys without the license plate number. Unfortunately, nothing ever came of it. They never caught those assholes. I can only wonder what they wanted with me, what they were planning for me, or what would have happened if Josh hadn't been there. Wow, I'm glad you're okay. I bet your heart lit up when Josh came. Scariest. Some years ago, I was staying at my parents' place looking after their cat while they were away on vacation. At a little before 5 a.m. one morning, I was woken to the sound of the glass on their front screen door shattering, followed by pounding on the door. I went to the door to find out what was happening. Long story short. One of the neighbors had a grown child living with them who had a psychotic break. He attempted to murder both his parents with a big butcher knife. His mom escaped and ran to my parents' house. I let her in, of course. Her arms and hands were covered in defensive wounds, and she had also been stabbed several times. She ended up surviving. Her husband did not. The kid committed suicide. Scariest part I didn't even know was the scariest part until later. At the time, I let the mom in. As I was closing the door, I thought I saw someone else. I opened it, thinking maybe it was the dad needing help too. No one was there, so I shut the door again and went back to helping the mom. A neighbor who'd been woken up by the noise and looked out their window told me that it was the son chasing his mom up my parents' front steps that I had seen. He turned away after I closed the door and went back and killed his dad instead. If I had been 5 seconds later letting her in, she likely would have been killed on my parents' front doorstep. A couple seconds faster opening the door again, and he still would have been there. So yeah, that was pretty scary. Hey, thanks for checking out the video. We've got plenty more awesome content on our channel, so be sure to stick around. If you feel like sharing your thoughts or experiences, feel free to drop a comment below. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss out on our latest videos. Looking forward to seeing you again soon.